Hi everyone, it's me Hannah. Thanks for coming to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about a couple more HTML concepts that I didn't mention in the previous two videos, and then we're also going to be discussing a little bit of CSS and a little bit of JavaScript. The first thing we're going to talk about is relationships. The elements on an HTML document are a little family. If an element contains another element, then the first element is the parent and the second element is the child. Two elements within another element are siblings, so an element can have multiple children but only one parent. I created just a couple elements to show what a parent and child and sibling relationship look like. The HTML element is a parent to all of these inside of it. So the body element would be a parent to this anchor element, this div element, and I created two paragraph elements inside of the div element. So the div is parent to each of these paragraph elements, and these paragraph elements are siblings. I also want to show you how to write a comment because I don't think I went over this before, and it looks like this. So write your comment in between the dashes. Let's discuss nesting. Nesting is when you put an element within another element. If I just make a paragraph element and I say, I have a really bad feeling, but I really want to emphasize really by making it bold. Oops. So I put the strong element around it, which will make it bold. So that looks like this. It says I have a really bad feeling, but really is bold. I want to talk about two other important HTML elements, which are images and headings. So the image tag is just img, and then to link to a picture, you enter src, which is short for source. And then you can either enter a direct URL like I did up here with my Instagram, or a local image. If you're gonna build your own website, you will most likely be using your own local pictures. So anyway, I have a local picture and it's just called happy. And then I like to put in ALT, which is short for alternative text, which is a happy smile. The alternative text shows up if for some reason the picture can't load. So if the user can't see the picture, they can at least understand what the picture is supposed to be. And so when I load my page, I now have a picture of a happy smile. Okay, now I'm gonna add a heading above this image. So there are multiple size headings that you can use, from H1 to H6, 1 being the biggest, 6 being the smallest. You can edit your heading sizes and all that with CSS, but we'll get to that later. So which heading you use really depends on how you want your page to look. This is a heading for this image. And then I'm gonna put H2. The ones after 1, like 1 is like a huge heading that's used just the same way that a newspaper or a magazine would use a headline. Basically makes it big and stand out, captures your user's attention so they know what to expect from that area of the page. And then H2 through H6 are kind of like subheadings. This is a subheading for this image. So now when I load my page, we have headings and a subheading. Now let's talk about CSS, or cascading style sheets. These are used to change the way that your HTML page appears. You can apply CSS embedded, inline, and external. So an example of inline is when you apply it to the HTML element directly. So I'll be doing it to this heading H1. Okay, so you use the style attribute. So I'm going to make the background red, and I'm going to make the text white. So as you can see, the appearance has changed. So if you wanted to use an embedded one, you would use style tags in the head. And then you want to put type, just so that the browser knows. Make it text/CSS. And this is where you will type whatever style. So I'm going to make my paragraphs one style. So to do that, I put P. So whatever I put in these brackets defines every single paragraph. So for my paragraphs, I'm going to make the background color black with orange text. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. We're just going to make it small. So every paragraph element now has a black background, orange text, and small text. Now my favorite way, and probably the most efficient way to use CSS, is to use an external style sheet. And to do that, you link it here. You use in the head, you use a link element and rel equals style sheet. And again, classify the type just for the browser. And then put your link href, and mine is called stylesheet1.css. And here I have stylesheet1. It is completely empty, so let's make something. So I have a link here to my Instagram, so let's go ahead and all the anchor elements, let's define a style for those. I'm gonna make the background like a bright color, aqua, and then the text is gonna be black. Actually, let's make it purple because that's dark but bright. And let's put a border around it. There's so many different kinds of borders you can use. We're gonna use a dashed border because that sounds great. Oh, and you can just define your border all with like border color. You can like define the size, the width. There's so many different properties that you can define. Oh, right, let's go over. So this part, border color, background color, that's called a property. And this is the value. Okay, so border color is a property, and I'm going to put in the value. We're going to make it green. So border color is the property, green, value. So when we go to my page, so you can see my link, it has a aqua background, purple text, and a green dashed border. So you'll want to learn all about different CSS property values. Don't expect to learn every single one, but definitely find a reference and keep it handy. Now let's talk about JavaScript. JavaScript allows you to create richer context on your web page using scripts. You can animate images, create content that updates in real time. You can add events, like when someone clicks a button so that the user can interact. So JavaScript can do all sorts of things for your web page. I'm going to show you what happens when we add an event handler to a button. So, I'm going to add an ID to this image because we're going to use it. I'm going to add two buttons here. I'm going to add a button before and after. Now, I'm going to add something that says on click. Oh. So we're going to say document.getElementById, and that ID is my image. Put that on the next line. And then we say .src for source. So I'm going to make it happy. I need to put quotes there. And I will say click here to make him happy. And that's what the button will say. And then I'm going to make a button on the bottom. I mean, it will be next to it. It won't be on the bottom on the web page, but on the document, it's underneath. Okay, and we're gonna make this the sad. And I'm gonna say click here to make him sad. And I'm gonna change this because it will no longer be a happy or sad smile. It will depend on what button was clicked. Okay. Basically what we're gonna do is when we click on the button, on click, we will get element by ID my image. That means since I have the image and it has the ID name my image, that is what will be gotten. It says dot source, and we're gonna change the image that has the ID my image to whatever we have the value for source. So I have two buttons. Click here to make him happy. That doesn't do anything because he's already happy. But click here to make him sad. Oh, sad. And then we can just go back and forth between happy and sad depending on what button you pick. That is just one example of JavaScript. The last thing I want to show you is how to link to a JavaScript page, because doing it inline like I did is definitely not the best idea if you're going to make a whole web page. You'll probably want an external JavaScript file. Yes, you use script elements and then source, and then you link to your external JavaScript page. Specify the type again. Scripts go here. So you could create a function for this on-click event and put it up here in between these tags instead of putting it all down here in the body of the document. This is just a little example of one thing that JavaScript can do. I put links in my description to websites that are helpful, as well as free courses that you can take. Like always, I hope this was helpful. Leave any questions in the comments down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!